This weekend I found myself at a cottage, so I got the chance to try out my mini weekender bag from Bays for the first time. Got some thoughts about it, so I'll share as I unpack. So I figured while I was unpacking this that I would do a Q&A because it's been years since I've done one on the channel. It's been a really long time since I've done them on Instagram. And I feel like we're in need of one, a little catch up. I got my questions on Instagram here, but let's just first talk about this bag quickly. I will say I was gone for about 4 days, 3 nights, kind of like an extended long weekend, and I paired this with my black Lululemon Everywhere backpack, and I feel like I had just enough space to fit everything that I needed to between those two bags. I think the one disappointing part about this bag that I've heard other people talk about when it comes to the Bays weekender bags, whether it's the mini version like this one, which is already still huge, or the original size one, is that although the shape is really nice and the fact that this zipper compartment opens up so that you can see everything you've got packed in. See, when you zipper it up, it closes, bada boom, it opens. It also means that you lose a ton of space in the main compartment here. So I probably would have been able to fit like a lot more if the zipper was like right here flat, but because it wasn't, it was quite tight and also super heavy. But we were on a little bit of a road trip, so I don't feel like it mattered for this type of trip. I think it was perfect, but I don't know if it'd necessarily be like my go-to bag for like traveling where I have to lug it around everywhere, because it is quite heavy. But in the main compartment, I've got 2 pretty packed packing cubes full of tops and bathing suits. I've got my scuba hoodie, my funnel scuba hoodie from Lululemon, one of my favorite hoodies. I've got a dress, 2 pairs of jean shorts, and that's everything for the main compartment. There's also this bottom compartment that I'll get to in a few questions, but let's start off with unpacking these. Also, please ignore my hair right now. I got caught in the rain earlier today. I didn't think I was gonna film a video, but we're spontaneous over here. Here we go. Question number 1. You never speak about romantic relationships. Why? This question kind of makes me laugh because I don't know if it was like a month or a couple months ago, someone was convinced in my comment section that I have a secret husband, and they were very upset that I was lying to the world by not telling everyone about my secret husband. I am not married, so can confirm that. It is true that I keep a lot of relationships of all kinds, romantic, friendships, family relationships, there we go, off the internet. For a lot of reasons. And I know that sounds like really odd coming from a lifestyle like influencer, because I do think my content is under like that lifestyle category. I do vlogs, but you know, you guys see, I typically vlog in my apartment, and 99.9% of the time it's just me in my videos, and 99.9% of the time it's just me on Instagram and TikTok. Like there's these little pockets where I can sometimes squeeze little hints of people, but like you are not getting a lot from that, and I prefer it that way because I just like the feeling of having separation between the internet and real life. I think for me it helps keep me grounded, I guess, to the fact that like there is more going on in my life than what exists on the internet, because this is a weird career that can get in your head. You can do a lot of comparing to other people, and you can start looking at metrics to assess your value, and people will have comments about like everything and anything, and like 99% of the people who watch this, of you watching this, are fantastic. But then there's like that 1% that just kind of adds this yuckiness to the experience of sharing, because it's one thing to get like constructive criticism, but it's another to get just nitpicked on things and to have people like opinionated on decisions that you're making. And I just feel like when it comes to the things that I value most in my life, which are my relationships, like that's not something I want to be consumable for the world. I don't want people to be entitled to an opinion, because I do think once you start sharing things, people are inevitably going to have opinions. That's like what happens, and that's natural. So I can't control that, but I can control like what I open myself up to. And that's one of those things where I'm like, you know, I just don't think that needs to be involved. There's also like another layer of that this is a decision to share my life with the internet that I've made, but not a decision other people in my life have made. So by no means do I want anyone to think that by being a part of my life, it means that they have to be on camera. Again, nor would I want that, because I do think, like, as much as I do share a lot of special moments, I'm also very cognizant of when I want certain moments just kept for me and not like manufactured into something for people to consume. I know that's a weird thing to say as someone in my position. I guess what I'm trying to say is that there's this blurry line where internet life and like IRL life in real life can get so overlapped, and there's already so much overlap in my life between work and play that like to just make everything content feels like it would be exhausting for me. And I love the solace of being able to go to my crew and know that like I don't need to be thinking about those things, and that my value, my sense of purpose isn't like all rooted in what I do here on the internet. Also, I finished this packing cube. So yeah, this is my channel. This is Caitlin's Corner. So, you know, you can really probably expect that that's how it will stay for the future. I know that's probably a disappointing answer because people like ask because they're curious, and I know it comes from a good place for a majority of people wanting just to know, like, you know, how that different areas of my life, I guess, function. So I by no means am like disturbed by the interest or the curiosity about it, but yeah, it's just a boundary that I have for my internet life, and I think that's okay to have those as a creator. That being said, I'm not trying to live like a double life here, you know, so I will tell you when I've got a husband, like, have no fear. Failed to mention that I'm also, while I'm doing this, packing for another little quick trip. This is not like a normal thing for me, as we know, for me to be like darting here, there, and everywhere. This is just a really cool season of July where I get to be out and about of the city. So pajamas are going back into this one. How long are you planning on staying in Toronto? I had some questions about my apartment and living in the city and all the things. I'm also going to open this compartment right here at the bottom. I think this is one of my favorite parts about this bag because it just adds like that extra little bit of space that was so necessary. It opens like this, and it has its own zippered compartment. And here I have another little packing cube of socks and underwears and bras. And I've got my Bays cosmetic bag in maple. This bag is one of my favorite travel goodies ever. This is all ready to go for my next little trip too. It is stuffed, but it is fantastic. The fact that it comes with a portable mirror actually comes in handy way more than you think, because there are oftentimes in hotels or places that you're staying where like mirror space is limited. So this allows me to just pop up wherever I need to be. One of my favorite hacks here is to put liquids that are at risk of exploding. Obviously not when it comes to planes, that's a whole different beast. If you're traveling like without a plane, then just keeping things locked up in these little stasher bags so that if any liquids burst, they don't get on everything. Huge win. This question is interesting because I think now of any time in my life in Toronto is a point where I've had more questions about what the future looks like. I love Toronto. I know it's not a perfect city by any means, nor do I think like anywhere in the world is perfect. I think you can kind of find yourself in this cycle of complaining of the place that you live in, because it's just like very therapeutic to complain with fellow like Torontonians or fellow New Yorkers or wherever you are in the world, not to call out like those two cities specifically, but like to just like vent about the problems. But there is like a lot of good, despite like there being some not so great stuff about Toronto, one of which being just the high cost of living, the traffic, the construction, the laundry list of things that we could go into. But I do like still have so much love for the city, and I talk about it all the time, how I just really adore the tactileness of living in a city. I think the lifestyle is so much healthier for me in that like it keeps me moving my body, and it keeps a lot of or I guess not tactile, but like there's a physicality, that's the word I like to use, a physicality to city living, of like you moving your body to get places and doing more walking and being more like close to just things to do all the time. You can always like entertain yourself, and there's shows that I go to on weeknights, or baseball games, or any sports games, or I can go to a concert and it can just happen on a casual night, and like wow, what a cool experience. I love that aspect of the city and the food options, and just the life here is really beautiful. But at the same time, I also have so much connection back home where my family and friends are based, or a good portion of friends and a lot of my family are based. I love spending time with my family, so it's also like one of those things where I'm like, well, if only I could like have this experience in the city with all of the people that I love also in one spot, that would be the dream. I know that's not like a unique problem or conundrum to be in. I think there's a lot of people that find themselves in that weird middle position when it comes to like having like 2 homes or 2 places in the world that feel like home, or 3 places, and figuring out like which one is the right click for you. So to keep the answer short, like there are no plans right now for me to leave Toronto, but I am starting to think about, you know, what my future is in this city. As I answer this question, and why sometimes Q&As are hard, is when you don't know the answer, it's kind of lackluster of a response to give you. But I'm in this season of I don't know. We'll see. I'm kind of open. This year I've been like in this yes mode where I'm saying yes to more opportunities and trying new things. And I think a large part of like my life up until this point has just been really responding to opportunities in front of me and dealing with it as they come, and guiding or going with the things that are feeling right, being guided by intuition. And I think that's kind of how this decision will shape up. So yeah, right now, no plans, no definitive plans to leave the city. But we'll see where these next couple years take me. Now, if you've been watching for a while, you know I've been in this apartment for ages, and that also feels like something very unconventional for what you see as a content creator. Like by now, I should have already done like 4 moving vlogs and unpacking videos. And don't get me wrong, I think that content is so much fun, and it like will be a really fun era for us to explore when that day comes. So I know like from your perspective, again, it's one of those things where like me being in the same spot probably hasn't been the most exciting for you visually, but for me personally, this space has been so beautiful to me, and I have so much love for this apartment. And that's kind of like one of the things that comes into mind too when it comes to my life in Toronto, is like, do I keep living it in this space? If I do stay here, like, do I shift gears into a new spot? But at the same time, the spot is so great for so many reasons, and you know, it opens a can of worms. So needless to say, there's a lot of I don't knows happening here. And I think it's the first time in my life where I have more of those I don't knows about the city, even though it's not like I dislike it or I'm sick of it by any means. I just don't know if some sort of shift is happening in me, or just general like life confusion is hitting. So there's that. That's the raw, honest answer. This is a good follow-up questions. If I moved apartments, what would I prioritize in a new place? Well, I think for one, the one that I always like rant to my friends and family about is I would definitely want in-unit washer and dryer. I know like that sounds like so whatever, or anticlimactic to so many people who have homes that naturally have that in their homes and spaces, but that is a Toronto luxury. So that would be definitely in my next place something that I would need to have. I think honestly I would love to have a space where guests can stay in like their own little spot, like a guest bedroom, I guess. I don't know why I'm characterizing it as something like different. It's a guest bedroom. That would be like a dream as well. And more closet space. The closet space and the in-unit washer and dryer is probably like the 2 most important things. But that guest bedroom opportunity would be like a close third. Because I love hosting, and I just think like a guest room where someone can have like their own door increases the chances of people just like feeling comfortable staying at places, which is natural. People want their space, especially as we get older. Like less and less people are gonna be like, yay, I'll take the couch. What's something new you'd love to learn? Honestly, I need to get on my Portuguese game, guys. I need to find a way to make time for making Portuguese lessons a part of my life. I say that, but like I don't think I have the capacity to do that right at this moment. But that is something I definitely want to invest time into, because one day when I have kids, like I want to be able to give them that little taste of their background. And I think language is such an important part of that. I have so much admiration for people who speak more than one language. I follow a few accounts on the internet where people like speak like the polyglots, where they speak like 5 languages. And I'm like, why don't I know 5 languages? That is so cool. I just feel more and more of that connection to Portugal as I get older. I've always felt that connection, and that's, I think, in part because of the exposure I had to the language when I was younger, and then that kind of like stopped for a period there. But that has kept this just such powerful love alive in me, that I would love to honor it by just investing more time into it. So that's something new I'd love to learn. I'd also love to learn how to crochet like some clothes. I think that would be really cool to experiment with in my crochet journey going forward, because that's like a really practical thing to make. I've been like in an era of making like chickens and whales, and well, I made a blanket, so that was practical. But I just think clothes would be fun, like some funky tanks, some tote bags, we'll see. Bookmarks maybe. There's more to do in the crochet journey. How do you deal with comparison with where other people are at in life, especially at this age when everyone is having babies or buying a house or all the things? It's a struggle. Need advice. I too need advice, but honestly, I think that's the funny part about the last few years and like going into the later part of my 20s and into my 30s. Like, I just think that's going to be the theme, is that everyone's in these different stages, and I really try and make it a situation where I look at that as a beautiful thing and a reminder that there is always possibilities for you. There's no like deadline for getting things done. Like, the world is open and there's not a limit on joy. It's just, there's an endless capacity for it. So to get boggled down on comparisons that make you feel worse about where you are, because I think that's often what we talk about with comparisons. I don't think questions like that come from a place of like, oh, I just keep comparing my life to others and it's better than everyone else's. Like, how do I stop doing that? It's often the other case where we're comparing and feeling like, oh, I don't have that, or that didn't happen to me, or I'm so far from that, like, can't relate. So yeah, keeping grounded to the fact that like there's no race to life, you know. It can happen in the time that's right for you, and it will happen in a different timing than the person next to you, and like that's okay. I also try and like use that as an opportunity to listen into myself, because sometimes when we feel that ick, that grossness, when we see someone having or succeeding or doing something that we want to do, like that's what it is. It's an indicator that maybe we kind of want that, or something that it symbolizes. So that's where you can get a little curious with yourself. And then it's kind of like the classic advice too, of not allowing yourself to feel bad about your life because of picture perfect images or news that you're hearing about other people, because there is always more context that isn't being shown, not just on social media, but in real life too. Like, people sometimes aren't open with all the not so great things that are happening in their life, which is like fair. Not everyone has to be an open book, but there is context that's missing, and no one's life for their whole life is picture perfect. We're all going to go through struggles and obstacles and difficulties and insecurities. That's just part of being human, even if you can't see it. So also reminding myself of that is important too, so that you don't catch yourself in this phase of, oh, it's just me that's in this spot, or it's just me being left behind, or it's just me dealing with this issue. No, I assure you there are other people who, even if it's not the exact same thing you're going through, can relate to it on some sort of level. And that I think is a really grounding thought, because we can get carried away with comparisons so quickly. Get curious, I guess, about yourself and figure out like what you really want. And remember that like we all are on our own unique paths. There's no right way to doing life. We all are going to do it differently, and that's the beautifulness in it. That's what makes getting to know other people exciting, is that they have different journeys and they make different choices and they do things at different times, and you can get like so much from just asking people questions about their life. It's one of my favorite things to do, is just get again, the idea of getting curious. But yeah, admittedly, I've been in that boat before, and I will be in that boat again. I think it's a common human experience, but I will say, when you find yourself in the comparison game, I think the best thing you can do is get yourself out of that mode of comparison. So like, what can you do right now to get yourself, or to distract yourself from this tunnel of thinking that is only going to make you feel like crap, And when you start to feel like crap, you're gonna invite more of that energy into your life. And I think that's where it's like, you gotta shift gears. You gotta focus on doing something you enjoy. Go hang out with someone that you really love. Get outside, like just try and change your energy and catch it as soon as possible so that it doesn't become a bigger and bigger beast that you kind of have to dismantle. We are all different though. We all go on different like routes, and I love it. I love that part of being human. How are you doing these days? Any recommendations for burnout? This is a really sweet question. I'm doing good, but I would also be lying if I said like this hasn't also been a really tough year for me. Behind the scenes, there's just other things going on that admittedly I'm not going to get into because again, not all to do with me. Like, it's one thing if something's just about me, myself and I, but when other people get factored in, it's like, whoa, different ball game. And that has made this year just really heavy, and I've had to like learn how to contend with a lot of uncertainty and fears and doubts and just like a lot of emotions that I'm sure you have felt at some point, and it sucks when it just feels like there's a cocktail of that happening. But at the same time, I also feel like this year has had so many beautiful moments and some experiences I never could have thought would be part of my life, and I've scratched like things off my 2024 bingo card that I didn't expect to be on the bingo card. Like, even the fact that I went to this cottage this previous weekend, I cast my first fishing rod for the first time, and I went paddle boarding for the first time, which aren't like extreme things by any means, but they're new things, and they're things now I can say I've done, and like that feels really fulfilling when you're able to do that. There's just been a lot of like fresh energy in life too that's been really exciting and has brought a lot of joy, and it's weird to feel like both of those things, both extremes, exist at the same time. But that's just kind of what life, I think, is all about, is the fact that there can be both like great joy and great pain coexisting together. And that's kind of the joy of being human, is the fact that we have the capacity to feel both those things so strongly, and so many things in between. Whoa, that was like really deep for that question. But yeah, it's been a complicated year, and to also have a job like this one where I do want to make content that's uplifting and that feels like not an escape, but that just feels like you're getting a dosage of something good, something valuable for you during the week, and making sure that like I'm still doing that and making content I'm proud of and doing a good job at work while also being good at being a human to the people that I love. Like, it's just a lot sometimes to kind of juggle it all. I think I'm doing an okay job, but I'm really just trying to take care of myself a lot this year. That's why it's like I've talked a little bit about like really emphasizing my meditation practice and really leaning into journaling. Like, these are things that I really feel like are not just wants but needs in my life at this moment. And at the end of the day, I think like they're gonna serve me better for the future. Like, once I'm through this season of craziness, it's like these are gonna help make the next chapter even better, because I'm gonna be better because of it. My tips, I guess, when it comes to burnout specifically, is to be kind to yourself and to recognize like that we are gonna have seasons where we are very productive and very like on our game, and everything's going right and everything's flowing, everything feels really easy and delicious. And there are gonna be times where obstacles come into place. So recognizing the temporariness in that, and not like allowing yourself to think that, oh, this is going to be forever. And also, like, especially when it comes to burnout specifically, like, make time for yourself. Please do not let yourself crash because you think that you need to do that next to-do list item, or you need to say yes to this person, because you will hit a brick wall at some point, and it will be so much harder for you to get yourself out of that. Like, regular self-care, and self-care being things that make you feel good and that are things that serve your future self, like things that you know your future self will appreciate. That is so important to incorporate in your day-to-day. You need someone to give you permission to do that, as silly or as serious as that self-care may be. Please consider me the person giving you permission to do that if you need it, because we all do. We all need to make sure we're filling our cup. So I guess that would be my tip, is just to schedule it into the calendar, like I said many years ago, like a class that you can't skip that's based on 100% participation. I used to say that all the time when I was a student as like self-care for student life, but it still applies to adult life, because even though we don't have classes that we have to show up for, we've got a lot of roles and responsibilities to show up for, so you gotta slot it in. It's a class based on 100% participation. Are you visiting Portugal this summer? I am not. Sadly, I am not. I'm hoping next year is the year, guys. Maybe the end of this year. We'll see. But no, everyone I know though is in Portugal, so I'm just living vicariously through everybody and trying not to be sad about not being there myself. You are an avid reader. What books do you wish you could read for the first time again? Well, I think the only book that comes to mind is A Court of Thorns and Roses, because I read that book when it first came out, I think in 2015, 2014, 2016, somewhere in that era. And then I waited for the second book to come out, and I read it again probably around 2016, 2017. And there's a big like change that happens between the first and the second. It's one of the series that comes to mind where like such a big shift happens and tone change, and I really loved it at the time. And I remember watching people talk about it on BookTube, not Book Talk like it is today. But now there's so many people reading this series, and it just feels like such a fun time to get into it because everyone's reading it, and there is such joy in that. I feel like books are great whether people are talking about it or not, if it's just something that you have for yourself. But when books become like a cultural conversation, I just find it fascinating. So I feel like a little bit outside of the conversation because it's been so long since I tackled that series. But maybe I should just give it a reread again, because I'm sure I've forgotten a lot of tidbits. Maybe that's my sign to just reread it. Favorite summer recipe? Right now, it's been the black bean burger recipe that I've been obsessed with. I'll link it down in the description box below. It has like sweet potato in it. It has black beans and peppers, and you can add feta to it. It's just delicious. It freezes well. It just feels like a burger that I eat that doesn't feel like, oh, I'm missing out on the burger experience. Because sometimes you have veggie burgers that are like, this ain't given what it's supposed to give. I've also been obsessed with kombucha this summer. Like that's all I've been drinking. I really like this kombucha from Rise. That's a rose hip hibiscus. Delish. All my cottage clothes are unpacked, and I am starting the process of getting the next trip going. I think I'll be vlogging that trip, so stay tuned for that. That should be a fun one. I say I think. We'll see if I end up whipping out the camera, but that's the intention. We're gonna try. If you've got more questions for me, please let me know in the comment section down below, because I'll take note and try and answer some of them in maybe like a future week of my life vlog. I feel like this was hopefully interesting to watch. I think we talked about some things that we haven't had the opportunity to really chat about in the regular content. So that's kind of the great part about a Q&A, is it opens up the door for some unique conversations. So yeah, I'm gonna leave things here. Apologies in advance too if this video didn't have as fancy edits. I just needed to get it done and ready so that you would have something for the Friday video, because I'm running a little behind these days with the craziness of the last couple of weeks, but it's good. I'll see you guys very soon with another one, and until then, toodles.
People in therapy are often there to deal with people in their lives who won't go to therapy. I have a job, it's actually quite fulfilling, though my hairline is thinning. I barely do anything else. I read self-help books, I do